Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Tabitha Akor. Let's begin. In the heart of Ambazonia's Atlantic zone, a family's nightmare continues to deepen. 18 harrowing months after their loved one, Tanga Clovis, was abducted by colonial military forces in Likumba, Tiko. What was initially presented as a routine interrogation has since morphed into a chilling case of enforced disappearance, leaving his family clinging to hope amidst growing despair. Their relentless search for answers unfolds against the grim backdrop of hundreds of similar unresolved cases that plague the region, each a painful reminder of the human toll in Ambazonia's ongoing crisis. Meanwhile, over in Bamenda, discontent is rising among city dwellers following last week's high-profile visit by the colonial prime minister. Despite promises made and expectations raised, the long-awaited rehabilitation of the city's crumbling intra-urban roads has yet to commence. The pothole-ridden streets, symbolic of years of government neglect, continue to frustrate motorists and pedestrians alike, fueling further skepticism about the regime's commitment to meaningful development in the region. Together, the stories paint a sobering picture of a people caught between unrelenting hardship and broken promises. Well, all this and more we will have on tonight Undaunted, but first, the major headlines. Tonight, Bamenda city dwellers disappointed as roadworks failed to materialize a week after the open declaration of La République du Cameroon's prime minister. Tonight, we'll take a look at tragedy strikes Bamenda, woman beaten to death by her husband. Also, the Ambazonian State Army sent a Gendarmerie lieutenant to the land of no return. Also tonight, families' desperate search continues over 1 year after loved one's disappearance in Tiko. China sees through La République du Cameroon's blockade. Reconstruction funds withheld. And on African scene, Kenya's president breaks silence amid deadly protests, vows to curb anarchy. Also on foreign scene, Trump sharpens rhetoric on Ukraine as Kremlin shuts down on peace talks. Well, with this, we head on to the full briefings for tonight. Wow, tonight, it's been a week since the colonial prime minister visits to Bamenda, and city dwellers are growing increasingly disappointed as the much anticipated road works is yet to begin. The intra-urban roads, which have been in a deplorable state for years, remain potholed and rooted, causing inconvenience to residents and commuters alike. During his visit, the colonial prime minister had declared that all funds were available for the road works to commence and that pending compensations had been made. However, despite this assurance, The expected works have not started, leaving many to wonder what is causing the delay. We see that residents of Bamenda, chieftain of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, are expressing frustration and disappointment at the octogenarian Paul Biya's government's inaction. The Colonial Prime Minister told us that all funds were available and compensations had been made, so what's holding them back? Asked a particular resident. We've been waiting for years for roads to be fixed, and it appears we will have to wait some more. It's unacceptable. We see that the lack of transparency surrounding the delay has added to the frustration. The residents are demanding answers as to why the works have not started despite the Colonial Prime Minister's assurance that all necessary arrangements had been made. Now, as the city dwellers wait with bated breath for the start of the roadworks, many are left wondering when they can expect to see tangible results. The colonial government must provide a clear explanation for the delay and a timeline for when the works will commence. The people of Bamenda are calling on the colonial government to take concrete actions to address the city's infrastructure challenges. The time for promises is over. It's time for results. The colonial government must, at this time, prioritize the needs of its citizens and work towards creating a better living environment for all. Well, tonight, with me in the studio is Barrister Mbeseha, our legal practitioner, bringing his thoughts and perspectives to the issues as they unfold tonight. Good evening, sir, and good to see you once again. Thank you, sir. Well, Barrister Mbeseha, let's get straight into the report. We see that the funds needed to commence construction in Bamenda has been approved, but still, work is not yet in progress. What exactly is holding them back? We see that we've spoken recurrently about the failures of La Republic du Cameroon when it comes to their commitments to the Amazonian region and their development in infrastructure, in economy, and what have you. But at this case, we see that their response is not even giving what the people need, and the people are calling out for possible actions and for what they need to see for possible results. Barrister Mbeseha, what's your call also to the La Republic du Cameroon government and the Amazonian people seeking results at this time?
Perhaps the question was, what is holding them back? That's simple as good morning. What is holding them back? The answer is simple and straightforward. The thing that's holding them back is that all what they say, they are just lies. They are manipulators. They're lying. I've said here before that they are out for election campaign. But even before the elections, what is holding them back? What held the French ambassador back when he promised that everything had gone right with the money, billions from France, twice in Bamenda? What held everybody back? What held peace back? They claimed everything had returned to normal. Why did not do reconstruction? War disturbed us. What is holding you back? Peace has not returned. Normalcy has not returned. That's as simple as good morning. These people are fraudsters. And the problem is not even that they lie. The problem is that they find among ourselves, they find among Ambazonians, people who assist them, accomplices in their lies. I'm talking about Bamenda, I've said this before. This was the PM just on Sunday. I asked what is holding them back. What is holding them back is what happened on Monday after the Prime Minister made those promises. On Sunday, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday came. The very people who are supposed to be beneficiaries of those projects, those fanciful, non-existent projects, are the very ones in Bamenda, in Yaoundé, carrying their suitcases to the claiming to step up here, oh, you're the best man in the world. The CPDM is the best thing we ever had. And who are these people? They are not you and me. They are ministers. Who are ministers in Cameroon? Architects of theft, architects of graft. That's not all. They include a certain minister they call Acha. Madam Acha. She is a minister president agency in charge of enforcing offenses against fraudulent people. I said, the money has been signed. Where is the money, Madam Acha? What is holding you back? Just lies. These people, trust them at your own risk. Again, that was just last weekend. What has held them back since 1961? What has held them back since Paul Biya himself went there and promised to dig the road? What held Mona back when he was even the vice president? He was the speaker. From digging a road from Bamenda to Bengui, his own hometown, 20 kilometers away. What held him back from digging a road to, and just talk about Mona, to his own village and to his own division? What held the Prime Minister, Philemon Yang, Prime Minister for many years, from developing the Northwest? What held Achido Achu back? Only one answer: deceit, fraud, orchestrated manipulations. And so it has been going on since the last 16 years. It is continuing. But until our own people who are being used are able to see with their own open eyes that the whole thing is fraud, the whole thing is calculated to be deceit, then shall we be able to find our way? What is holding them back? Just that very weekend, the Prime Minister was there. He saw a certain mayor of Bamenda, whatever, leading the Prime Minister to go and open a stadium, a 345-seat stadium, which was a property of a council. Yes, it became a synthetic stadium, none of which has ever been seen in Africa. What is holding them back, Mr. Mayor? You're lying. That's not a stadium that is worth PWD Bamenda or any football team. 343 seats is not even off the high school hall. And of course, the reason is a very big thing, because the whole University of Bamenda does not even have a hall that can seat 350 people. What is holding them back? Lies. What is holding them back? Orchestrated fraud. The fraud of the minority over the majority. The minority here being the politicians of the CPDM, the majority being the people who are supposed to benefit. It deceived them. It took beer, giving you side is a solution. It will not. It does not. And then we're holding them back. Let all our eyes be open to this orchestrated fraud, to this manipulation, which have been going on forever and ever. And until we see this and say no, enough is enough, we're returning to Amazonia. Shall we see the end of this fraudsters? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Barrister Mbeseha. Indeed, that's a word right there to the Ambazonians. Their eyes need to be open to the manipulation of La Republic of Cameroon at this time. And as you stated, what's holding them back could be lies, could be fraud. It is, as you have stated exactly, by the majority over the minority. Well, Barrister Mbeseha, as we progress in the news tonight, we have subsequent reports. We got this report from Bamenda, still in Bamenda. A devastating incident has shaken the city of Bamenda as a mother of two, Marceline, lost her life after being brutally beaten by her husband. The incident occurred earlier this week, and Marceline succumbed to her injuries despite being rushed to the hospital. According to sources close to the family, Marceline had been a victim of long-term domestic abuse at the hands of her husband. Despite her hopes that he would change, the abuse worsened over time. The situation took a deadly turn when the couple got into a fight, and Marceline, who had recently given birth and was still breastfeeding, was kicked multiple times in the stomach. Pathetic. Marceline was known as a hardworking and determined woman who ran a thriving hairdressing salon at Foncha Junction in Mautri, Unkwem. She had recently graduated as an apprentice from her salon and was still training others in the trade. Her sudden and tragic death has left her family, friends, and the local community in shock. Upon learning of Marceline's death, her husband fled, and a manhunt has been launched to apprehend him. The incident has sparked widespread outrage and condemnation, highlighting the need for urgent action to address domestic violence and also to protect vulnerable individuals. This tragic incident occurs against the backdrop of the ongoing conflict in Ambazonia, which has led to economic hardship and radicalization of some men whose sources of income have been affected. The situation demands a comprehensive response to address the root causes of violence and also to promote peace and stability in the region. Now, in this case, the death of Marceline serves as a stark reminder of the need for collective action to prevent domestic violence and also to protect the rights of women and girls. It is essential to create a society that supports survivors of domestic abuse and holds perpetrators accountable for their action. Well, Barrister Mbeseha, this is a disheartening, devastating, and inhumane treatment. Marceline, like other women, also suffer domestic abuse and torture from so-called men who do not understand their place as the head of the home and how protection and respect a woman, how much protection and respect a woman deserves in the family. Now, could we say this is as a result of the ongoing war in Ambazonia? Yes, we could say that. But then, more justly, is the evils of gender-based violence on women. What's your reaction to this, Barrister Mbeseha, and how do you think, what better way can we redeem other innocent women and girls from domestic violence and abuse? And how can you say, what can you say, or what's your call and your cry to this ongoing conflict that has made the society to plunge into more despair?
Well, what I can say about it is domestic violence is unacceptable. And let me remind us that either during time of war or time of peace, there will always be families. There will be married people, men and women alike. And so the family will survive either in peace or at wartime. And so there's no room for domestic violence to the extent of killing a woman or killing a husband. The spouses get married to make a happy life. By every indication, she was a very hardworking woman. But suppose that she was the laziest woman in the world. Death is not a penalty for women who are not hardworking. That should not occur in Amazonia. That should not occur anywhere else in the world. If we must link it to this struggle that we are in, to the war, my only connection would be that from the story, after killing the woman, the man disappeared into thin air. And based on what we know about the prosecution of criminals or suspects during time of war, particularly in Cameroon, when the Vamos disappear into thin air, they are gone. We hope this does not happen in this particular case. They don't take the advantage of war and say, well, we cannot find him, we cannot find her. That should never be an excuse. It's you to find him wherever he goes. Let him be brought to justice. Let him answer for his crimes. And this should serve, as I just said, as a lesson to every single couple. There's no excuse that because of war, you are able to beat your own spouse to death. Yes, war brings hardship, brings difficulties, but under no conditions should anyone, particularly women, mothers, be beaten to death. It's not a strike that kills a woman. It was continuous beating. So it was something very, very continuous. Is there anything in the legal system in Bamenda or in Cameroon, generally speaking, that deals with domestic violence? Because the signs are there. They don't just happen one day. The signs of domestic violence are there. At the end of the day, one of them is dead. But are these things preventable? Of course they are. For it to be preventable, the spouses, the men and women alike, must know what instruments are available to them solve the problem. For women, once beaten, twice may be different. So don't give up yourself to being beaten like a child. Because you get married to stay well, you get married to bring up children. You don't bring up children by beating them. We will grow up as children who have been beaten in school. But that age is past. There's nothing like education by beating. This is about children. Talk less of education by beating your wife, an adult. Worst of all, who are just given birth. Because women who are giving birth is very, very fragile. And so punching her with all the force that you have is a sign of madness. I'm sure in a proper legal system, if that man were found, he'd be taken to for psychiatric evaluation. Was he normal? Was he really normal? If he was not normal, what caused all this? And so, again, I've said, the idea of war is not an excuse why domestic violence should go to that extent. If, because of war, the government services are not yet there, they're no longer there because there's nobody to report to. There's no social service there. But that is not the end of it. Because even before the government services came, all of us have those structures at the level of community. You're suffering domestic violence, you go back to your parents. They call the family meeting, they resolve the issue. Why are you beating this woman? Why are you beating this man? Whatever. Because some women are stronger than men. And so the absence of government-regulated social services, domestic services to handle these things, should not discourage, or we should revert to what we had before, while waiting for better days to come.
Yes, you're right.
Domestic violence is unacceptable in time of peace, in time of war. Over to you.
Yes, but it is unacceptable, no matter the level of the difficulties of the war, it is unacceptable to treat a woman with such inhumane level of treatment. Well, with this, we'll still move on to another report we're having right here. Tensions have heightened in Ngoketunjia County as Ambazonian State Army has claimed responsibility for the killing of a Colonial Gendarmerie officer who was arrested 2 weeks ago. The Colonial officer's corpse was dropped at mile 25 in Undauted, prompting a Colonial military crackdown in Bamenda village. Now, following the discovery of the Colonial's office body, La Republic of Cameroon's government forces launched a crackdown in Bamenda village, tracking down and killing 2 yet-to-be-identified individuals. The bodies were later taken to a total filling station in Undaunted for public display, with one reportedly burned beyond recognition. Now, this incident highlights the ongoing war between La Republic of Cameroon government forces and the Ambazonian State Army, who have been waging a campaign for independence in Cameroon. Now, the conflict has resulted in significant instability and violence, with both sides suffering losses. Now, the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer of Ngoketunjia had previously declared innocent civilians under his custody will not be released after the safe release of the arrested Colonial Gendarmerie officer. However, we see that with the Colonial officer's death, it remains unclear if the Colonial SDO will release those he ordered their abduction. Now, the situation in the zone remains volatile, with the potential for further escalation. The war between government forces and the Ambazonian State Army continues to claim lives and disrupt communities, highlighting the need for a peaceful resolution to the crisis. The residents in the affected areas live in fear of the ongoing violence, with many uncertain about their future. The situation requires urgent attention from relevant authorities to prevent further bloodshed and also to find a lasting solution to the conflict. We keep having issues of insecurity. Barrister Mbeseha. Over and over again, civilians are left to bear the brunt of the war. Now, in this case, innocent civilians have been abducted and their release is not even guaranteed. We understand that it's a win for the Ambazonian State Army, but when we look into this intricately, more intricately, the lives lost, the innocent people abducted and tortured, is so much for a war like this. This is a fight for self-determination, Barrister Mbeseha. How long does this have to go? How many more lives do we have to lose?
I don't know how long it has to go. I don't know how many more lives we have to lose. And so the question is not there. The question is, this is war. Or what are the rules of war? That colonial gendarme that was taken into custody was a village target. Of course, he was. Because our enemy, they didn't kill him to custody. And the rules of war civilized by that. If you're captain, if you are one of yours, is taken into custody, it's a prison war. What do you do to release your prisoners of war? You negotiate, threatening the captors. The captured him was a legitimate target. There is not forthcoming threat from the all powerful government use and so on and so forth. And so with that behavior, the person was thief. Wrongly, he can free yourself captive. They will kill you. Because the solution why they take you into custody is to have your share. They didn't just shoot, they took you into custody, holding you so that you should be a tool for negotiation. So you don't escape physically, because they'll kill you. The other people, your own side, you know, they can get a relationship with weapons. They will not do it. And so that is the rule of war. And then the people who catching women and their children, release this or that. What did they do? When it's dead, maybe whatever reason we don't know. But you go down the street, everybody fine. Nobody you can find any people you have killed. Is this a new strategy? No. The government went in Gabo, kill people, in order to hide their crimes, they burn their corpses, they burn their houses. And so this is a sign of a defeated army. It is a sign to tell Yaoundé that this war is not a joke. It's not for gangsters. It's a war to talk and end the peace. Let us take this particular example. If, for example, the administration there and the military there say, well, you have taken our own man into your own camp. Let us negotiate for his release. The first thing is that we will not open fire anymore on anybody here in Bakutinja. We are shutting down here. Do you think this guy will be dead? He will not be dead. He didn't do that. But this man is dead, with his gallons on himself. But he has left behind a family, his own children, his wife, his own dependents. We have come to help him. We could. But how long will they help him? We don't know. And so again, it is the lack of knowledge. It is the denial. Yaoundé is in denial that there is war. Yaoundé is in denial and think that the people who are fighting the ASA, the people can go and take them from the bush and just bring them to the house, kill them, or lock them up, and the war will end. It's not going to end that way. All wars end on conference table. And until you get to the conference table, there will be victims and cross victims. Yes, we are so sorry that 2 people have been killed. They should not have been killed, our own people. But they too have not gone free. They have not gone free. Their denial, in the last time we were asked what is holding them back. The denial, the deceit, that this is just a thing that you can go around and catch anybody and silence him. You will not do it. And they're fond of doing this. Remember they captured the deal of the Bateau not long ago. They were in denial. The governor went there and said within 48 hours we want to see this man back. The man did not come back until they negotiated for his release. They're in denial. You don't deny those things. Many years ago, Boko Haram captured the wife of the Speaker of the National Assembly. They thought they could be in denial. They shouted, we will catch them. They caught nobody. They negotiated and brought back that woman. And so that is what it is. Again, as emphasis, that gendarme man, commander, whatever rank he had, he was a legitimate target because he was an opponent. He was an armed guy. And so taking him to custody, the whole idea is to force negotiations. And the colonial army and their administrator, I don't know what the DO says now. He's not dead. The women with their children, they are drawn well attention. They are holding them illegally. So what's your excuse? Deny to tell you that, well, I'm sure the death. We could not prevent the death of that young man. Though you went around and killed 3 or 4 other people, burn their corpses, that man is dead. He's not coming back to life anymore. And so it's a reminder This war is real. The only thing that will end the war is negotiation on the table, agree on the terms of separation, and we spare our own lives, they spare theirs. That's the lesson you should draw from all this. Over to you.
Well, Barrister Mbeseha, I would say it's always good to have you on the show based on the pragmatic perspectives you bring to the report. Well, in a situation of war, it's necessary that everybody comes and sits on the table and then proper negotiations is being made. Well, moving on, we have this report. We see that a family in Ambazonian's Atlantic zone is enduring an ongoing and agonizing wait, now 18 months since their loved one, Tanga Clovis, was illegally taken by colonial military personnel in Lukumba, Tiko. What began as a believed brief questioning later on evolved into a prolonged disappearance. Since his kidnap, his relatives have been desperately searching for answers, despite their fears of the realities of the hundreds of similar cases in the country's zones. Now we see that the Amazonian War, now in its ninth year, continues to cast a long shadow over the lives of ordinary citizens. Against a backdrop of ongoing unrest, citizens and incidents involving the colonial military are a regular source of apprehension, contributing to a pervasive sense of fear among the populace. For many, the hope for resolution is often overshadowed by the harsh reality of living in a state where accountability for such actions remains elusive. Among the countless stories of suffering emerging from this period is that of Tanga Clovis, a man whose family describes him as having no reason to attract military attention. He had recently returned from Dubai when approximately 1.5 years ago, he was apprehended by colonial army personnel in Lukumba, Tiko. His family initially believed it was a routine questioning related to a misunderstanding and anticipated his swift release. However, and sadly, Clovis has not been seen since. Efforts to ascertain his whereabouts have been met with conflicting accounts from La République du Cameroon's military sources, some claiming he was released the day after his arrest, while others suggest he was transferred to Yaoundé's La République du Cameroon's capital for further investigation. Now, these varied narratives have only compounded the family's distress. In their desperate search, Clovis' family reported to have thoroughly checked all of colonial police stations in Tiko, in Boya, and Limbe, but to no avail. Their search extended to Yaoundé, but the outcome was the same, no trace of Tanga Clovis. The case is reportedly known to all stations in Tiko, and even the state council in Tiko is aware of his disappearance. Notably, Clovis' mobile phones remained active for several weeks following his arrest before permanently shutting down. His family, holding on to the initial belief of a temporary arrest, did not pursue tracing the devices at the time. Now, the disappearance of Tanga Clovis is not an isolated incident. Across Ambazonia, numerous individuals have reportedly been taken by La République du Cameroon's military forces and have subsequently vanished, their families left without explanations or closure. Now we see that the family of Tanga Clovis is making a heartfelt plea to anyone with information regarding his whereabouts to come forward. They can be contacted at 670-136685. Well, moving over to our in-house analyst, Barrister Mbeseha, we see that the level of insecurity in Ambazonia is deteriorating by the day. And it's not far-fetched from the disheartening reports we receive at the home front, throwing families into utter despair. This is another case right here, Barrister Mbeseha. Could you kindly lend your voice to this? What's your thought? What's your perspective? And what can the family do at this time? They're heartbroken and they're just weak. What do you have to say?
Well, I think, let me start by the question before analyzing. What the family can do and what they should continue to do is to bring it to light, just as we're doing here. That's the only way. One police station from one police station to the other, not a solution. Because your adopters are not going to show them where they kept them, where they kept him. They will never show you. Even if you go to the police station, he's in room 2, and they take you to room 1. He's room 3, they take you to room 4. Or they simply tell you they don't show anything. They simply say it's not here. You go away. And so it's not an arrest. Back to that. It was never an arrest. Because it was an adoption. Plain air adoption. They are not denying. He's not a missing person that you're asking people who know where he is to tell the family. No. I don't know where he is. You don't know where he is. The parents don't know where he is. It was an adoption in plain daylight without any warrant. And so the responsibility for him, life or death, lies with his adopters. His adopters are not like the ones who are here in Bamenda that they adopted to take money from you. They are official adopters with government guns, with uniforms. So it's the custody of government. And we only pray that what happened to Wazizi should not happen to him. They adopted Wazizi in the same manner in Boya. Boya, just 15 kilometers away from Tiko. Until today, Wazizi has never been found. And officially, the adopters of Wazizi have told the world that Wazizi is dead. How he died, nobody has explained. Where his corpse was buried or the earth or whatever they did to it, nobody knows. But officially on government paper, Wazizi is dead after being adopted by the colonial masters. And so this is where the problem is. Again, sorry for the family. You cannot. Where you go to Yaoundé, where are you going to start? Where are you going to start? If the state council in Tiko, from which jurisdiction this guy was taken away, can even tell where he is. Why did he? Because in principle, they are not supposed to come there, arrest people without the knowledge of the state council, without the knowledge of the so-called chef d'etat, who is the deal. And so these people who are nearer you, whose names you know, whose houses you know, cannot give you information. How do you expect to get information? You are going up to Boya. What's still going to Yaoundé? Where are you going to get it from? And so this is the chain of criminals who are doing all these things to Ambazonians. Why? As I said in the last moment, they are trying to do this in denial. What did this poor Clovis do? We don't know. But he probably had a cell phone. And they thought that he went to a cell phone, he saw my number, he saw your number. He saw him watching ABC. It must be a number. So they eliminate you. They deny that they swore. They deny that whatever thing Clovis was watching maybe on his phone was real. What we're saying here is not fictional. We're saying this in life. The war is real. So the denial is what is costing people's lives. And so this gentleman, for whatever reason, the responsibility is that of his captors. His captors, I have said, they are well known. They came in uniform. They took him away. They are not denying it. So sending a message over whoever knows where he should tell the family. If they told that he's in Konenge, what are you going to do? If they told that he's in prison in Boya, what are you going to do? So these people, the family should keep doing what they are doing now. Don't forget about putting out those messages. They should use every available means to bring the plight of their child or their husband or their family member to the world. Because the world, this denunciation we make over TV has some meaning. People listen to us. This is what the world has become. That a government will go around and adopt people, take them away, declare them dead. The family does not know where they are buried. I've just given the example of Wazizi, and there are hundreds of others in that country. And so this is a criminal junta that's holding us. But again, the bigger problem is, even though the enemy is in denial, we ourselves are also in denial. You go to Tiko, you find people in Tiko clapping that poor bear is the best. Right now, they're there. They have refused to see the plight of this poor family, which is organized adoption, organized killing of their loved one. There's nothing to them. As long as poor bear and his people can't give you a drink, they can give you 1,000, which is $2. They are good people. What people who are conspirators, who are assisting these crimes, which people are amongst us, which people are not innocent. They are well-educated people. They are doing this for greed, the greed of having power, the greed of having positions from where they will steal money. not even just their salaries. And so that's the big question. That's the bigger problem. The denial by our opponents, the assistance given to them by our own people to continue doing what they are doing. And so, again, it's unfortunate for this family. Let's keep them in prayers that what happened to Wazizi should not happen to this poor young man. Over to you.
Rightly said, Barrister Mbeseha. I think the bitter truth everybody needs to chew. Well, it's a season of denial. Well, not just with the La Republic of Cameroon, even with those who still want to support them, even within the Ambazonian circle. Well, moving on to this report, Barrister Mbeseha, the international community's patience with La Republic of Cameroon's handling of the protracted Ambazonian War and its associated reconstruction effort appears to be wearing thin. China has outrightly refused to back the so-called presidential plan for reconstruction and development, possibly due to skepticism about the colonial government's true commitment to peace and its notorious record of financial mismanagement. The war ravaging the Savannah Midland and Atlantic zones of Amazonia, now in its ninth year, has spawned a humanitarian catastrophe and obliterated vital infrastructure. In response, the colonial government unveiled its presidential plan for reconstruction and development in 2020, touted as a panacea for the war. Yet, as La Republic of Cameroon's Prime Minister Joseph Dion Ngut's recent pronouncement from Bamenda reveal, this plan is faltering not just due to insecurity, but more critically from a lack of genuine international financial backing. The most damning indictment comes from Beijing. China, a nation known for its expansive investment footprint across Africa, has drawn a clear line. No funding for the PPRD as long as the war rages. While others see this as merely a logistical concern about instability, critics have qualified it to be a stark vote of no confidence in the colonial government's ability or willingness to genuinely address the root cause of the war. We see that China's resignation of the Ambazonian territories as red zones is a diplomatic euphemism for a strategic withdrawal, a refusal to throw good money after bad into a volatile situation that the government itself appears incapable of or uninterested in resolving. Now, Japan's limited support, confined to the relatively stable FACO area, further amplifies this international skepticism, isolating the Biya government rhetoric from the grim reality on the ground. At its very inception, the PPRD was dismissed by shrewd observers as a cynical exercise in putting the cart before the horse. They rightly argue that genuine reconstruction can only follow a cessation of hostilities and a credible path to reconciliation. La Republic of Cameroon's insistence that rebuilding would somehow pacify the population has proven to be a hollow claim, a convenient deflection from its failure to engage in meaningful dialogue or hold accountable those perpetrating the violence and profiting from the chaos. Now, despite the Prime Minister's strained attempt to paint a picture of progress, boasting of reconstructed schools and roads, the truth is that less than a quarter of the estimated franc CFA 2,500 billion needed for the plan has been secured. While the UNDP and a few others continue to offer support, their efforts are dwarfed by the scale of the devastation and the persistent issues of governance. The narrative from Yaoundé consistently blames insecurity for the plan's woes, yet it conveniently ignores her government's own documented indifference to the Ambazonian grievances. Its heavy-handed military response and the rampant allegations of corruption that plague public sector projects. China's decision, therefore, is not a naive reaction to war, but a calculated assessment that the current environment, fostered by the colonial government's own actions and inactions, makes any significant investment a high-risk gamble with minimal prospects for success or accountability. Now, this seems the poor developmental structure and governance in La Republic of Cameroon, Barrister Mbeseha, has gone unnoticed to the international notice well to the international community. What's your thought on this? If you could analyze these projections, what would it be?
Well, if I can analyze and I want to analyze, what it mean is I think the people of Yaoundé who are so old but so dull, they don't seem to understand many things. There is nothing in the world like international donors, like international charitable donors. No. The international community comes and invests its money where they will harvest something. The Chinese don't come there and just do it because they love you. They do it for consideration. And so they invest their money. They are good investors. Whatever thing they want to invest, they see how the outcome will be. What will be the turnover in this thing? And these are Chinese, like any other one, the British, the Germans, whatever country it is. Don't come there and do it to help you. Yes, they want to help you, but they will get something in return for the help. And if you were to flash back the pictures there, you showed a line of pictures of 4 old people. Maker, that's the general who is in charge of the command of the Cameroon army. He's about 90 years old. A certain Mr. Pobia, who is more than 90. A certain Jerry Fenji, who is 90. A certain Kabaj Bia. These are the political people who are trying to mortgage the future of Cameroon to China, to France, to wherever. These people have a very short lifespan left. Naturally, in your 90s, you'll be lucky to hit 100. If by the time you hit 100, you're no longer a human being. You're completely a dead, living person. And so these are people who are mortgaging the future of the country to get money from China or from other banks. And who knows what? When these people eventually go away in the next 5 years, then they will die. They'll probably be all dead in the next 5 years if they're lucky to live after 5 years. Who is going to come back to Yaoundé, be in power, to honor this type of promises, which were promises made on falsehood? And they will take us to what are they looking for money for reconstruction? Only the stupid man, that's the dullest person in the world, who will set his or own house on fire, your thatched roof, you set it on fire, with the hope that your neighbors will come and help you put a zinc house. You know, sir, if you cannot put a zinc house, you don't destroy your thatched house thinking that your neighbors will come and help you. They will not come to help you. And so why are they asking the world to come and help them? For the destruction that they did by themselves. Reconstructing what? Houses they burnt. Reconstructing what? Schools they destroyed. Very willingly. It was not a natural flood. It was not a disaster. They did these things, gave the orders, they went and destroyed it. And now you're asking the world to come and assist you reconstruct. They will not come. You are on your own, sir. Even when the French come to Bamenda and promise that they have not come. Doing it on the presumption that the war will end and they'll get something in better return for their money. They don't see the future of the war ending in your favor. They will not invest there. That explains why the French adventure, actively done publicly, has failed. For them even to reconstruct Bamenda, we were talking a few minutes ago in the first segment, despite all their promises. And so you destroy your community, what you call your country, they go and beg for money, they come and reconstruct. Which money, even if they give it to you, you will not reconstruct. 90% of the money will be stolen by these debt-living people. Why? Because there's something in you say, what have you left to be afraid of? The dead don't fear anything anymore. These people are dead. And so this is where they are. Support from the world to come and reconstruct what you destroyed. It's imaginary. It's imaginary. And so they're not coming. You are not able to reconstruct what you destroyed. Right? And again, as I said, you lie to people. At least you can borrow money and buy bread and buy sardine and give them. And promise them a better tomorrow. Which tomorrow you will no longer be there because you'll be dead. All these people will be dead. All these people will be dead. There's nothing about that. Naturally. Not killed by anybody. They'll be dead. Naturally. How many more years does Maker have? He's the general in command of the Cameroon army. He can barely stand. He commands the army. He can barely stand up, if at all even hears. The reconstruction fiasco, the reconstruction dynamite, the reconstruction lies that they tell all along and tell all along will not end this thing. And again, they use people who don't have the credit anything to do. Who is pushing reconstruction in the first place? It is John Gute. Who is John Gute? He's not just one of us. John Gute was at the African Commission for Human Rights in 2003 to 2009, where he defended Yaounde's right to occupy our land and lost the case. He did not all lose the case. The court told Yaounde these people are people with the right to self-determination in black and white. And they didn't end there. They gave them 6 months. If you don't have the expertise, let us, the African Union, get into constitutional arrangement with these people so that you can avoid a crisis. It's the very John Gute, he was there. He was a person for the Cameroon government. That judgment came out in 2009. 2009, that's 15 years or more ago. They have not implemented anything. They pretend that they don't know. But these commissions and other work courts are written. They are there for eternity. And so you find these people with total lack of credibility, who have the evidence within their palms, who lie shamelessly to the public, who lie shamelessly to themselves. Again, I don't know where I can start. That's Mr. Paul Biya standing there, who told us 2017 he would defeat this thing within 2 weeks. It is not gone. That's Mr. Yaya Jabreya, who spoke in Parliament in 2019. He had buried 2 cubes of sugar that would dissolve within time. It has not dissolved. The 2 cubes of sugar have become 2 pieces of steel. You see, living in denial. What kind of people are these? At very least, if God can deny people like that heaven, that would be the best job you can do for me. And you, over to you.
Thank you very much, Barrister Mbeseha. Thank you for giving us a background information as regarding the history of all this, and very much necessary to know that these people will never come to invest when there's nothing they can actually gain from. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight in the reports. Thank you for the amazing perspectives, the reactions and thoughts you bring to our reports tonight. This is where we'll be letting you go. Until next time, thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. And from here, we'll go to the head of the news.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. On African Scene tonight, President William Ruto of Kenya has issued a stern warning in response to the recent wave of deadly anti-government protests, vowing not to allow what he called anarchy to destabilize the country under the guise of peaceful demonstrations. Speaking publicly for the first time since the unrest intensified, Ruto addressed the nation on Wednesday, declaring enough is enough. He directed security forces to take stronger action to contain the violence, including instructing police officers to shoot in the leg individuals found looting or destroying businesses. The president maintained that public order must be upheld, even as criticism grows over the government's handling of the crisis. The unrest was sparked by the death of a popular blogger in police custody last month, which triggered a nationwide outcry and reignited long-simmering anger over police brutality and perceived government impunity. Public outrage further escalated when a police officer was filmed shooting a protester at close range during a demonstration. What began as isolated protests soon spread across the country, culminating in mass demonstration on June 25th, exactly 1 year after large-scale protests against new tax hikes brought cities to a standstill. That day, thousands of demonstrators poured into the streets in Nairobi and other urban centers to denounce corruption, high living costs, and police violence. In response, police erected roadblocks and sealed off key access routes to the Nairobi city center on Monday, barring non-essential traffic and pedestrians. Clashes between protesters and security forces erupted on the city's outskirts and across 17 of Kenya's 47 counties. According to reports, 31 people were killed in Monday's violence alone, with over 100 others injured and more than 500 arrested. The total death toll from two separate waves of protests in the past 2 weeks has now reached at least 50, fueling alarm both domestically and internationally. On Tuesday, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, called on the Kenyan government to address the underlying grievances behind the protests, warning that excessive use of force by law enforcement would only deepen public resentment. His address, President Ruto attributed the unrest to political agitation, accusing his rivals of exploiting national frustrations to foment chaos and destabilize his administration. "You can call me whatever names you want to call me," Ruto said defiantly, "but I will make sure there is peace and stability in Kenya by all means." He issued a direct warning to opposition leaders whom he accused of attempting to use violence to overthrow the government. "This country will not be destroyed by a few people," Ruto asserted. "We are a nation governed by the rule of law, and no amount of incitement or lawlessness will be tolerated." Well, as the nation remains volatile, human rights organizations and civil society groups are calling for restraint from both protesters and police, urging dialogue as the only path to lasting peace. Many Kenyans, especially the youth, continue to voice their frustrations over economic hardship, government corruption, and the shrinking space for dissent. Issues, they say, must be addressed if true stability is to be achieved. Well, with this, we head on to the news across the globe. Tonight, in a significant shift, the United States President Donald Trump has delivered his strongest statement yet in supporting of alarming Ukraine, just as the Kremlin signals its firm opposition to any negotiated settlement with the current United States administration. Over the past 48 hours, Trump said the United States should provide Ukraine with the weapons it needs to win, marking a more assertive stance than his previous, more cautious approach to American involvement in the war. Speaking at a rally in Ohio, Trump added, "We will give Ukraine what they need, not forever, but to win," signaling a possible recalibration of his foreign policy message as the 2024 presidential campaign intensifies. The comments come amid growing pressure on both sides of the conflict, with Ukraine continuing its defense efforts and Russia appearing increasingly entrenched. Just as Trump voiced stronger support for Kyiv, a senior Kremlin official told Russian state media that Moscow sees no path toward peace talks with the United States, accusing Washington of escalating the war rather than seeking a resolution. The United States has proven once again that it is not a neutral party. The Kremlin source said it cannot be considered a credible mediator in any negotiations. Now we see that the back-to-back development underscores a deepening divide between Washington and Moscow, further deepening hopes for a diplomatic resolution. The war, now in its third year, has seen escalating military engagement with few signs of serious negotiation efforts. Foreign policy analysts say Trump's remarks could shift the tone of the United States debate on Ukraine, especially as the Republican base remains divided on continued American military assistance. Meanwhile, the Kremlin's outright rejection of talks points to a long road ahead, with both sides digging in, with tensions rising, and diplomacy sidelined. Ukraine's war is once again becoming a defined issue on the global stage and a central battleground in the United States politics. And with that, we know that giving us recurrent reports on these issues in the coming days, we'll get to know how this report will justify the end to this war. And well, with that, we've come to the end of Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. But before we go, a recap of the major headlines on Undaunted tonight. In tonight's Undaunted, we saw that Bamenda city dwellers disappointed as roadworks failed to materialize a week after the open declaration of La République du Cameroon's Prime Minister. Also tonight, we took a look at tragedy strikes Bamenda, woman beaten to death by her husband. The Amazonian State Army sends a Gendarmerie lieutenant to the land of no return. Also tonight, we took a look at families' desperate search continues over 1 year after loved one's disappearance in Tiko. China sees through La République du Cameroon's blockade, reconstruction funds withheld. And on the African scene, Kenya's president breaks silence amid deadly protests, vows to curb anarchy. And in the rest of the news across the globe, Trump sharpens rhetoric on Ukraine as Kremlin shuts door on peace talks. Well, and that is all on Undaunted tonight, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted newsroom, we say thank you for joining. We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless.